A little bit of housekeeping here. So right now, we do not have a quorum for the North Unit Board. However, there is a potential to have a quorum. So no North Unit business as far as decisions or anything like that will be discussed by the board tonight. So we'll take care of that. Yeah, this is not a board meeting. Got a good dad joke for you that my daughter told me this morning. So what ingredients do you need to make gold soup? What ingredients do you need to make gold soup?
Water and gold.
Yeah, water and gold, not quite. 24 carats.
How old is your daughter?
13. All right. If we could, we're going to have Gary Calhoun, North Unit Operations Manager and Marine Corps veteran, hold the colors. And if you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your hand over your heart, please, and ready, begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Gary. Much appreciated. Dennis, thank you for bringing the flag. I just want to say thank you to everyone for making the time to come out tonight. Appreciate it. Can everybody hear me okay? Is it too loud, too quiet? Good to go? Okay. So throughout my presentation, I encourage you to raise your hand, ask questions. If you are unclear on anything I say or anything like that, by all means, go ahead and ask them. So with that, let me get going here. So again, welcome to the what we call the end of season town hall for North Unit Irrigation District. And basically what I'm going to do is kind of go kind of a rehearsal of what we did this season, kind of where we're at right now water-wise, and going to take a look at some of the projects that we have teed up this winter, talk a little bit about HCP, Habitat Conservation Plan, talk a little bit about some of the conservation work that other irrigation districts in the basin are doing. And again, please feel free to ask any questions, okay? All right, started off April 12th, 2023, Wickiup Reservoir, highest elevation was 133,113 feet. That's out of 200,000 acre-foot capacity. We had 9,612.2 acre-feet of storage in Prineville Reservoir. Now, normally, that is 10,000 acre-feet, and the reason why it's down a little bit is some losses were charged against account holders that have water rights in Prineville Reservoir. It's the second time that's ever happened. First time last year that happened, and the reason why it happened is what we call it sharing in the losses. So last year, the reservoir, as you know, did not fill. Prineville Reservoir did not fill. In order for North Unit to get our 10,000 acre feet, it has to fill above 86,000 and change. So last year that didn't happen. They charged losses against everybody. We only got, I think it was about 3,800 acre feet of water out of Prineville Reservoir. So anyway, this year they decided, when I say they, the Bureau of Reclamation decided to continue to charge losses to all the account holders in the reservoir. And we did fight it a little bit. We did do some pushback and are continuing to do some pushback. So anyway, for those that don't know, that's the reason why we've got the 9,600 acre feet.
Fish and Wildlife?
They did, yeah. Every water bucket got charged equally. March 29th, we set an allotment of 0.70 Deschutes and a 0.35 Crooked River. On May 9th, we added a tenth to the allotment. September 1st, we added a nickel. And then September 26th, we added another nickel. So we finished off the season with a .90 Deschutes and a .45 Crooked River. And as of about 8 a.m. this morning, we have delivered 43,289.09 acre feet on farm. Any questions? Okay, current water conditions as of today. Wickiup Reservoir has 25,470 acre feet. Last year, same day, 6,783. It's a difference of 18,687. Crane Prairie, 38,643. Today, 38,290. Same day last year, sorry. That's plus 353. Prineville Reservoir right now has 89,726. And same day last year was 15,351. It's a difference of 74,375. So as of this morning at 8 a.m., there is 7,673 acre feet of water that was not delivered on the district. Okay, so that is water that we call left on the books, meaning that nobody ordered that water. Last week, I think it was on Thursday, that number was around 10,000 acre feet. So some of you might be asking, why is there 25,000 acre feet left in Wickiup when traditionally when we draw that down to what we call a dead pool, which is roughly 2,500 acre feet. Last year, it was 6,000 acre feet. That was what our carryover was last year. So we have to, when we're doing our water accounting, we have to account for undelivered water. And as you know, it takes, we lose about 50 to 60% of the water to deliver it. So last week we had roughly 10,000 acre feet to deliver. So that means I need 20,000 acre feet of water in the reservoir. In addition to that, there was some stored water that wasn't used in Wickiup Reservoir. So when we start the irrigation season, Arnold Irrigation District, they have 5,000 or 6,000, depending how you do the math. And then Lone Pine Irrigation has 5,000 to 6,000. And then also COID, they have the opportunity to get 5,000, which they would pay back in live flow. So Arnold and Lone Pine, what they do is they would take that stored water earlier in the season, and then come July 16th, they would begin releasing water out of Crane Prairie to pay North Unit back. Well, what happened this year is because the Deschutes River was on historic low flows, it was really, really hard for water managers, state and local, to dial everything in so tight. And when, so I guess the bottom line is Arnold did not use all of their stored water, and Lone Pine did not use all of their stored water. So there is that carryover that gets added into that Wickiup bucket. So have I thoroughly confused everybody? Or are we still good? Yes?
Did they lose that water now that they didn't use it? This water becomes available to us next year?
Correct, yeah, use it, it's once, if you don't use it, then it's gone. And then Arnold shut off, what was it, August 27th, 28th, somewhere in there, I think. They shut down early, and they got going on a construction project early as well. Gary.
What was the undelivered water last year? 6,000, you said?
The undelivered?
Yeah.
I don't have that number, sorry. But if I remember correctly, it was, it's around 5,000 acre feet or so.
So, Josh, what happens with the undelivered water? It carries over?
No, that just goes, so I put that in there just to let everybody know that's how much water is what we call left on the books, that people did not order. So it just goes away. It's kind of a, nebulous number. But it helps us for accounting. So when you want to say, why is there 25,000 acre feet left in Wickiup? Because I need basically 15,000 acre feet of water to deliver that 7,600 if we still have season.
What happens to that water?
in the reservoir.
It stays in the reservoir, it gets rolled over until next year.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. So the bottom line is we got a good jump on storage season. We got 25,000. We did start storing water. Was it last Wednesday?
Midnight on the 7th.
Midnight on the 7th. We turned turned Wiki up around and began storing water. And right now, we have started our ramp down schedule. So every 12 hours, we're making a change. And so every 12 hours, we're reducing the flows out of Wickiup, which means that much more water that we are storing right now. And I'll talk HCP a little bit later.
Did we have any natural flow in the Crooked or the Deschutes that we were able to pump?
Yeah, good question. Question was, do we have any live flow in the Crooked River or the Deschutes that we were able to pick up? And so I don't have the live flow numbers with me. I didn't bring the storage report.
2,331 acre feet of natural flow, Gary.
But that was only this month.
That's for the last 2 weeks of the Deschutes. For the total on Crooked River was just over 2,900.
So last month, we picked up 2,900 acre feet of live flow off the Deschutes. As far as the Crooked River is concerned, I want to say it was about 2,600.
It was 2,900 on the Crooked River, 3,240 on the Deschutes, actually.
Okay, sorry about that. So total, all season on the Crooked River, we picked up about 2,900 acre feet of live flow. And then on the Deschutes, last month, we picked up about 3,200 acre feet of live flow. Now, as you remember, was it February, March timeframe, Prineville Reservoir was, sitting at historic lows. It was making record low numbers, making the history book essentially for being the lowest it's ever been. And then, as you remember, we started getting some moisture in March and April, and it filled over to 144,000 acre feet, and then they began doing releases to prevent from flooding out Prineville. So what happens when they begin releasing water out of Prineville? So we got to keep a real close eye on that. We were talking with them, the Bureau of Reclamation, Ochoco Irrigation District, almost every day this spring, and monitoring the flows. And what we had to do is we had to pull our fish screens out, and then we had to basically, I don't want to say winterize, but we had to protect our pumping plant from flooding, because the flows got up to about 3,500 CFS on the Crooked River, and our pumps weren't in danger necessarily, but all of our fish screens were completely inundated and completely underwater. And so flows went down, and we thought things were good to go, so we put the fish screens back in, and then we got more rain and more moisture, and they went back up over 3,000 again, so we had to pull the fish screens back out. So what we were trying to do is we were trying to take advantage of that water, because I've got 3,000 CFS going by, and we can't touch it because our fish screens were literally underwater. And so the cutoff for that, what do you say, probably 1,800 CFS?
To start the pump?
To start pumps? Yeah, so we were only able to pick up about 3,000 acre feet of water out of the Crooked River, even though, gosh, I don't know, probably 50,000 acre feet went by. But we just can't pump it. That's the unfortunate thing. So, yes.
How are we able to get live flow on the Deschutes? Was Arnold turned back on, or Arnold was still off?
Last month?
This last month, yeah.
How were we able to get
Arnold
live
shut
flow?
down July 15th or something?
Yeah, so the biggest reason why, question was why were we able to pick up live flow? Biggest reason why is the other irrigation districts, their water rights, they kind of work on a bell curve. So at the beginning of the season, they start off at 50%, and then they go to 75%, and then during summer, they operate at 100, and then in the fall, they go to 75, and then they finish off at 50. So with Arnold being off and everybody else at 50%, there was enough live flow for us to pick that up. Yes?
So I hope this isn't a real stupid question, but what is it gonna take for us to get our 2 acre feet allotment back? I mean, if Wickiup were to miraculously fill, would we get that back or not because of the HCP or whatever that deal is?
Question was, what would it take to get our 2 acre foot allotment back? So the answer to that question would be really multiple wet years. Number one, we need to fill up Wiki up. If we filled up Wiki up this winter to 200,000 acre feet, that's not a guarantee that next year there's going to be 2 feet allotment. And here's the reason why. So in 2020, we set the allotment at 1 foot. And then as you remember, that in 2020 was the first year of the HCP. We had to make that mid-season allotment reduction. I remember it. We did it twice, and I remember it very, very well. Something that we never want to do again. But the reason why we made that reduction is because of the lack of live flow in the Deschutes River. And what happened is in 2020, we were right out of the gate, we were essentially instantly on stored water. Whereas in the prior 50, 60 years, we would get enough live flow to actually get us down the road into late April, early June, before we would start transitioning onto storage. And so the last 4 years of drought conditions, and this year being the lowest flows on the Deschutes River concerning live flow, we were essentially on storage in the last couple of years right out of the gate.
What's it gonna take to change the stream system on the Cricket River so you can take advantage of that water?
Yeah, the question is what's going to take to change our fish screening structure on the Crooked River, and the answer to that question is to build a new pumping plant down in Lake Billy Chinook. That would be the best solution, to be honest. That would fix a new pumping facility on Lake Billy Chinook would fix a lot of our water issues. So, and then we'd be able to pick up that water because we'd be designed for it. So, all right. Anything else about current water? Okay, talk about some of the projects we have lined up this winter. And I'm just going to name them, and then I'm going to go through the projects individually here. So we're going to be doing segment 1 of our lateral 43 pipeline project, 45-2 siphon replacement. We're going to line 1.5 miles of our main canal near Feather Drive. We're going to be updating 2 gates on our main canal near lateral 58. We're working on the Lake Billy Chinook appraisal and economic studies. And we have 2 hydroelectric projects on the main canal that we're working on as well. So let me go through these individually here. So the biggest project, and I know you guys have heard a lot about this here, is what we call our PL 566 project, or lateral 43 pipeline. So it is a 27-mile pipeline. It will conserve about 18.7 CFS. It's about a $34 million project. And we broke this into bite-sized chunks. So the plan for this year is to start segment 1, which would be installing about 6,000 feet of 66-inch HDPE pipe. And you can see right here, you've got Haystack Reservoir. Lateral 43 starts just on the other side of Haystack. And right now we're taking contractor bids and pipe bids for the project. And the plan would be to have a contractor install the large diameter pipe, and the district would self-perform on the deliveries. And there's a small lateral that we call 43-1 lateral. There's about 1,600 feet of 12-inch and 10-inch pipe that we would put in on that. Any questions on that?
When you're putting these pipes in, this is because of some things that happened with me in the fairgrounds here. Are you now figuring for pipe losses so that you wind up with pressure to the people's gate?
So the question is, are you factoring in pressure? And so the plan for this project here and those patrons that are on lateral 43, once this project is completed, they will have pressure. It'll be anywhere between 50 and 100 PSI. That's going to be on the lower phases. On phase 1, segment 1, the patrons that are on the first part of the project, they're not going to have a lot of pressure. And the reason why is it's really flat. for the first probably, I don't know, quarter to half mile. And then some drops start
I
being
guess what I'm
encompassed.
questioning is, if a guy down the line here has 50 pounds, is he gonna have 50 pounds when everybody turns on above him, or is he going to lose all of that 50 pounds because it's used up in the pipe fixture?
That's a good question. Sorry, I'm not an engineer, I can't tell you.
So what's at the end of that first year, is that sealed, capped at that point, and deliveries above the ends will have pressure or whatever, and then it's put back in the canal at that point?
Yeah, so the question is, what's gonna happen at the end of this first segment? So we're going from 66, and once they put that pipe in, then they're gonna taper down to 48 inch. And they're gonna put a 48-inch butterfly valve in, and then they're gonna put about 60 feet of 48-inch pipe with holes drilled in it, and that'll be covered with riprap, and that's gonna basically diffuse the energy or the pressure in that pipe, and then it'll go back into open canal where we'll have a weir. So everybody above that butterfly valve, for all intents and purposes, will be pressurized, albeit it's only gonna be, maybe 25 PSI because of the elevation drop. As we continue on into segment 2, then we got a lot more elevation drop, and then there's gonna be a lot more gain. Segment 2, we're gonna have, I think, 1 or 2 pressure reducing stations in the project, and in those pressure reducing stations, we are going to plumb for future inline hydro. However, right now, we're just focusing on getting the piping in, and later down the road, if the opportunity is there, then we can put in inline hydro and tie into the grid and produce a small revenue stream if it's possible. So we've already contacted all landowners in this area. We are working very, very hard to get this project over the finish line. I do need to be 100% upfront. There are some issues. On these projects, I'm working with multiple federal agencies. So this particular project, I'm working with the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, and I'm working with the NRCS. And we got a bit of a setback from the Archaeological Department from NRCS last week, and it's potentially going to set this project back 30 to 60 days. Not very happy about that, but I'm pushing forward, and we're going to try to overcome it if we can. If we can do it this year, we will. If I can't do the entirety of the project this year, then we're going to do a small portion of it, and then next year we're going to do a bigger bite of the apple and do the remainder of segment 1 and then all of segment 2. So, yes.
So once you put this pipe in, is it gonna be buried? And then, are they going to reseed over that, or is this just gonna be left bare and nothing but weeds? Cause I am so sick of weeds.
So good question. What's it going to look like after it's all said and done? There will be air vents, and there will be markings. There will be a 12-foot wide gravel road, and the area will be seeded, and it will be kept clear and unencumbered so that our spray equipment can go in there and take care of weeds and then mow and do all that stuff. But essentially, after it's all said and done, you'll have a wide strip of land that's wide open with a gravel road on it. Yes?
Gravel road, only on one side.
It'll just be one gravel road, 12-foot wide.
Down the center of the pipe or on one side?
It'll be on the side of the pipe.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we can't put it in the center because we're gonna have a lot of air vents and then markings and stuff like that.
So when will you accomplish segment 2, if everything goes as planned?
When would we accomplish? So segment 2 would be accomplished before next irrigation season, so it would be April of 2025. And
Where's that gonna get you? What distance? Segment 2, will it get you up to Fort Lane or not?
sure, yeah, so segment 2, the main line would stop just before Ford Lane, and so you got 45-2, 45-7. I'm sorry, not 45. Sorry, 43-2, 43-5, 43-3 will all be included in that section. And for those who know, 43-2 is really a long lateral. And then, so then you got segment 3, next segment, and segment 4 would be the last phase of the project.
Hey, Jack.
Yeah.
Is the 18 CFS for conservation each season?
No, so that's total for the entire project. And so, and I need to clarify myself. So the entire watershed plan was lateral 43 and then also piping 34. But 34 is really small. And so I did misspeak earlier. For lateral 43, the water conservation is it's 15.3 or 15.4 CFS, and then the remainder is actually tied to lateral 34.
And how is this funded?
I'm sorry?
How is this funded?
This is funded through what they call Public Law 566. So it's federal funding. We completed a watershed plan that entitles North Unit to spend $25 million of federal funds for the project. And then we have to match that with $8.5 million roughly of match funds. And so right now, in our hand, if you will, we've got 10 million federal, and then I've got about 6 million of match funding in hand. So we're going after the remaining 15 million of federal, and then we have a couple more million of match funding that we're pretty much teed up for it, but we're not going to see that for another few years.
But just to be clear, match funding is patrons contributing.
Nope, it's all grant funding.
Grants.
So whenever you get, it's good question. So whenever you get federal money, you have to match that money. They don't just give you the money. You have to either match it, 50-50 or 25-75 or however it is. So on this project, we get 25 million, and then we have to come up with roughly 8.5 million of match funding. So the match funding comes in the forms of grants. So right now, we've got a couple OWEB grants, and I'll be talking about that a little bit more later, but I've got about 1.2 million left on an OWEB grant. And then we got 5 million from Oregon Water Resource Department, and we'll be seeing that money come January, February timeframe. And then through the EPA, I have what they call a Clean Water State Revolving Loan. And that's for 8.15 million, and that's a loan. However, it's a forgivable loan, and they'll forgive 2 million. And so they're up to 2 million. So if I spend $4 million from that loan, I get 2 million for free, so I pay back. So the plan is later in the project, if I need to, I can tap into that loan. And so just as long as I don't go over that 4 million, I use grant funding to pay the 2 million, and the other 2 million is free. So, but as they say, if you can't dazzle with brilliance, baffle with BS. So you guys understand that? I eat and breathe this stuff every day. So if it's not clear, please let me know.
Does in-kind services help too, and what percentage of we do that or plan on?
Yeah, good question. The question was, do in-kind services help? So let's say you can't get match funding for the loans. You can self-perform work, and that will count as in-kind. And so there is a portion of the work that we are going to do as in-kind, and that's what I said on segment 1 here. North Unit will be constructing 15 deliveries, and then we would be doing 43-1, which is about, like I said, 1,600 feet of 12 and 10-inch pipe. Good? All right. Okay, next project, lateral 45-2 siphon replacement. And I don't know how well you guys can see that. So right now, we have a siphon that's about 740 feet, and it's a 24-inch concrete tile pipe. And a couple years ago, when I was the district's construction supervisor, I went in there and exposed that concrete tile pipe and tried making repairs to it. And we did an A1 job, but obviously it wasn't good enough because it just didn't work. And where these concrete joints come together, they pack it with mortar, and it's just almost impossible with the pressure on that pipe and just been leaking like a sieve. So one of the grants that we got a couple years ago, I was able to apportion off some of the money from that grant funding and replace the 740 feet, and then in addition, add another 700 something feet of pipe to get us around an area if you've been there on site, you can see this picture kind of right here. It's a big fill bank, and the canal is up on top of this road here, and the water seeps really, really bad down there. Anyways, we're gonna be able to pipe that whole section. And so number one, water conservation. Number two, safety for the public and UID staff for that area. So this project is already essentially paid for. The pipe is on the ground, all the parts are on the ground. I think Dennis has had the guys already hauling dirt out there and equipment hauled out there. So as soon as we shut water off, we're gonna start digging and get going on that project. And this one, it's not a high visual area of the district. It's kind of out towards the eastern end of the district. So unless you live out there and, specifically on that lateral, it's kind of hard to know where it's at.
Right, yes. Will it
Richard?
be designed and of ample size when pressure comes to that particular area at some date? It can be hooked right in.
Yeah, so the question was, did we, when we sized the pipe and we put the right pipe in there, did we anticipate if and when it's piped up to that, did we account for that? And the answer is yes. So 2017, the district had a system improvement plan where they went through and essentially designed pipe for the entire district. And that's where they figured out that it was going to cost, and this is 2017 dollars, $1.3 billion to pipe North Unit. Now that number is well over $2 billion. Anyway, so we used the what we call the SIP or the SIP to get the information, and then we had our internal engineer and then the bureau engineers validate all that. So, okay, next project here. So you're looking at a Google Earth image of our main canal around. You can see Feather Drive. It's right here. Sorry, it's not the best quality. Here's Feather Drive. And you can see all these streaks right here. That's all water or vegetation from the canal that leaks so bad right there in that area. And so if you were to go just downstream, go downstream a couple miles, you'd hit Haystack Reservoir. So anyway, you can see how bad that section there leaks. The district over the past number of years, we've tried putting the equipment in there to compact it. We've tried core trenching, we've tried bentonite, we've tried some other experimental technology, like a polymer that you add with the water and it's supposed to create a film over the, and we haven't been able to stop that from leaking. So we got some grant funding through what they call a CDS or Congressional Directed Spending. And so we got $555,000 of what we call an earmark from Senator Wyden. And then also I've got another $111,000 from a grant. And so this project, we're going to be doing about 1.5 miles of a 40 millimeter thick liner in the canal. And also I have a felt pad underneath and 40 mil thick liner, and then it will be covered in sections with some round rock to kind of hold it down for buoyancy and that kind of stuff. We didn't have the budget to pipe that section. That section right there is rated for about 1,000 CFS. So that means that we'd have to have probably, I don't know, 2 12-foot diameter pipes, for that, and just, you can't do that. And so the best bang for our buck was to line it. And so that'll be a project that we'll be doing this year as well. Questions? Okay, moving on. Okay, so we have 2 hydroelectric projects that we're working on right now with various partners. So the first project, we partnered with FCA, or Farmers Conservation Alliance. They're out of Hood River. FCA is the organization that wrote our watershed plan, and they also help us with funding, obtaining funding through the federal government and whatnot. So they did a study on our main canal. And I say main canal, I'm primarily talking about up in the Bend area. So as you know, we have a 64-mile long main canal, and it takes 34 miles to get the water from Bend onto the district. So we're talking about that first 34 miles. The very first 12 miles is concrete lined, and then after that, going behind the Redmond Airport there's enough elevation loss where if we were to pipe that about 8,000 feet, and we were able to put a hydroelectric facility back there, that number one, we can produce electricity and sell it, put it on the grid and sell it, and take that money that we make to help offset patron assessment. But the real cool thing about this project is, so let's say the Cascadia earthquake happens and power's off, and I don't know, that side falls into the ocean or whatever. And we hope that never happens, by the way. But so the Redmond Airport is the emergency operations center for Central Oregon. And if we were able to run water during a catastrophic event like that, the electricity that was produced or would be produced would power the emergency operations center, the Army's BIAC training facility, and the U.S. Forest Service in that area. So what we're doing right now is we've already done the research work, and we've secured $275,000 worth of grant funding to begin doing the design and engineering for this project. And so at Tuesday's board meeting, the board just awarded the engineering contracts to an electrical engineering outfit and also a mechanical outfit to do all that design work. So by next spring, we should have 100% design that we can take to go after federal money, and we're looking for about $40 million to construct this hydroelectric facility. And like I said, the caveat for this project is that it would be producing power for emergency operations, but the biggest thing is it would continue to add revenue for the district and water conservation, because you got 8,000 feet of 10 or 12 foot diameter pipe that would help conserve water in that porous section of our canal. So great project. We've been doing a lot of work on this. Yesterday we had a big meeting up in Bend with county commissioners and people from emergency management and the Army and Redmond and stuff like that. Getting a lot of support, a lot of traction on the project, and we're excited to get this thing going.
So, you said 12-foot pipe, but you said it was gonna take two 12-foot pipes to take the water through down the line.
Yeah, good question. So we are designing this system for 500 CFS. So the water that is not being used, so there's what they call an Obermeyer gate. It's like it has an air bladder that lifts up a gate in the canal. It would push water into that pipe, and when that pipe doesn't need any more water, it would go over that Obermeyer gate back down our existing main canal.
Oh, so you're not using all of it?
We're not using all of it, no.
So how much electricity does this make in dollars?
Well, I don't have a dollar amount yet, but it's about 1.4 megawatts is what it would produce.
Doesn't mean anything.
It's a lot. So let's just say.
Well, I know it's a lot of power, but compared to what the Deschutes Valley Water District makes, how much?
Well, so the thing is, though, is I can't really give you a number as far as how much money it's going to produce, because that is inherent on what kind of contract we get with Pacific Power, and those kind of things.
Yeah, but I know that the Deschutes Valley Water District got done 30 days early, and they sold $1 billion extra worth of electricity in that 30 days. So I'm wondering is that a similar size system? Or?
I don't know anything about that. I've toured their system, but I don't know anything about it. I'm sorry. Yes. Oh, do you have a question? No? Oh, okay.
Josh, this is Pacific Power Zone, it's not Central Oregon Electric?
Correct, yeah. Pacific
Who's
Power.
gonna build a transmission line to give it to them?
They would.
They will.
Yep.
With the Ben Bulletin, they had these vertical spinning paddles, is this the same system? Or
Nope, that's in my next slide.
That's your next slide.
Yeah. Any more questions on this powerhouse? Nope. All right, next. All right, so there is a company called Irrigation. It's a newer technology company. They're out on the East Coast, and they have developed a kind of a proprietary hydro. Sorry, choked on my gum. Sorry. They've developed a proprietary hydroelectric technology that it's a hydroelectric generator basically on top of like an egg beater. And it has a concrete support, and they just set them right in canals, and water flows by them, and it just spins. And they've done a lot of testing on them in the Pacific Northwest, where districts have literally like thrown tarps and beds and whatever else you can, and to see if they'll get hung up in them, and it's able to bypass them and not get clogged up with weeds. And so what we did is we had Emergy out a couple weeks ago, and they surveyed the lined portion of our canal. So that's the first 12 miles of our canal, and they surveyed the areas in conjunction with the where they can connect to the power. And so what they came up with is, it's actually a pretty remarkable project, is so they have these hydroelectric generators in a portion of the canal, a portion of the existing NUID canal, coupled with floating solar panels. And combined, the floating solar and the hydroelectric would be between 5.5 and 6.5 megawatts of power, which is huge. And this week they submitted the application for the interconnection with Pacific Power. And we've already met with the Bureau of Reclamation and started down that road to getting approval from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. They've come here, they've made a virtual presentation to the NUID board, and they came in person and did a presentation. And then next week, Mike and I are going to be touring their factory in Denver, Colorado, and looking at some of the technology that's already in play in Denver. And then we'll be going to a meeting with the Bureau of Reclamation there about these projects. So again, this project fully funded by Emergy. They're doing all the footwork on it. They would install the infrastructure. North Unit would get paid to maintain it. In addition, we would have a revenue source from this project to again help offset patron assessment. So during the summertime when water's flowing, turbines are going, and you got the solar panels making money. When we shut off water, the solar panels will just sink down to the bottom of the canal, and they'll continue to produce electricity. So.
Is it a revenue share with them? If they're funding it, what do they get out of it?
So they get the lion's share. We will get a portion of the revenue because they're self-funding the project, and then we would get a portion of the proceeds. So for North Unit, it's a win-win. I mean, we're already running water through the canal. Why not tap into that potential? So that's something that we're working on as well.
It seems expensive to do a floating solar panel. What's wrong with just one side of the canal bank? They're just looking for space to put solar panels in?
So we have in this section here, there's really wide, shallow sections of the canal where you can put a lot of panels in. And there's not a lot of vegetation to block the sun. And if you put it on one side, as the sun moves, you're not going to be able to get full exposure on it, depending which way the canal faces and whatnot. But
Chinese silicone washed down on my farm isn't going to hurt my farm?
what's that now?
Chinese silicone panels are washed down on my farm aren't going to be harmful on my crop?
I'll do my best to make sure they don't wash down and Chinese silicone affect your farm there, Gary.
So what's going to protect those from damage? I mean, people shooting them, and how are you going to protect them?
Yeah, great question. So part of the project is they would have to build security fence all the way around the facility, which is great for North Unit. Because as you know, that's kind of we call it the Wild Wild West out there. There's not a whole lot out there. Well, there's a whole lot out there, but we won't mention that right now. But these security fences will help keep that area secure. So, yes, ma'am.
So what part or parts of the main canal are being considered for this?
I don't have them identified here on this slide. Do you know where the Bend sewer treatment facility is? Yeah, so it's out there. Let it just suffice it to say it's between Redmond and Bend out there. So our main canal starts in Redmond, and it starts in Bend, and it kind of goes around Redmond, comes in behind Terrebonne, crosses the Crooked River, and then goes through Smith Rock State Park. Anyway, it's that section there out behind the airport. So now these two projects would not be linked, even though they would be very close to each other. Any more questions on that one? And you guys can go to the NUID website. We've got a lot of information on that. You can also get a hold of myself or one of the NUID team if you need more information. Happy to help in that regard. Okay, Lake Billy Chinook pumping plant. I know you guys have heard us talking about this for quite a while. We are getting close to the appraisal study and the economic study. We're expecting those any week now. The contract we're supposed to have them by the end of the year. And so I've seen some of the preliminary engineering, but haven't had a chance to read the entire report yet because it's not finished. But as soon as we get that report, we'll get it up on the website. I'll let you guys know what the initial assessment on this project is. Whether it can be, it's practical to go to what they call a feasibility study. So right now it's an appraisal study. That's basically, like, okay, this is about how much it's going to cost. This is the logistics. When you go into a feasibility study, then they start digging into, okay, what's it really going to cost, and really start nailing down the logistics to build the project, and and can we run it? Can we build it, and can we actually run it? Because I know early estimates say it's going to be about $6 million a year in electricity. Obviously, we're not going to be able to cover a $6 million power bill if right now we're only bringing in about $5.5 million. So we're obviously going to have to go after project power or some type of subsidy to help with that. I've already reached out and have some partners that we're working on funding the project. Massive project. I mean, you're looking at anywhere between 400 and 650 million to construct it, depending on the location and how much pumping capacity we have. So this project for North Unit, if we can get it to fruition, this would this would get us guaranteed pretty much 2 acre-feet allotment, and coupled with
And then the question is,
conservation
what
work.
cost?
And that's what I don't know yet. It's a good question. What cost? We've been very successful going after grant funding. So far, we haven't had to spend any money on this. It's all been funded via grants. We've got another $3.5 million that we're working on right now with Senator Merkley's office for congressionally directed spending request to be able to fund the feasibility study. So that $3.5 million plus some money from the Bureau of Reclamation. But I got to get the appraisal study report first before we can see if we can go to a feasibility. So it's a slow process, but we're working through it. Right now we're designing the plant for 200 to 400 CFS capacity, and so anyway, that's.
Josh, it's no secret to anybody that I'm a pretty big skeptic of this pipe ring. And I'm anxious for the appraisal study and the economic study to come out at the end of the year. I worry that you're squirting money away. Yeah, I cleaned that up. For the feasibility study, when we could use that congressional appropriation for more modernization. We heard from the get-go from Water Resources that it's $6 million a year estimate just for electricity. And I'm not long for this world, but I have 7th and 8th generations coming up, and we're saddling them. I am a skeptic.
Mm-hmm.
I call it the pipe dream. And the pipe dream started out with pipes and opium. So there you go.
Gary?
Then are we giving away are we gonna still both feasibility of both the south and north locations on the lake? It seemed like the south location was right at where the water, the lake ends would be the best.
So those are the options right now that we're looking at. There's two different locations for the pumping plant. One would be up by the marina, and the other one would be closer to the confluence of Crooked River.
And then there's a way to lower the 6 million if we do a pump up and run down in non-irrigation season to make a hydro power.
There is that potential.
Or is that gonna be part of the study or not? You need a reservoir, a holding tank, a fairly large one on the hill at the top to be able to run water back down the pipe and make electricity in the middle of winter.
I know when the project first came into fruition, Congressman Bentz, when he was on site looking at the project, that was one of his recommendations, was doing like a pump back type system. And to be honest, I don't know if that made it into the design or not. So, but I will in the next 2 months. But I wanted to get back to your statement. I get it. This is a massive lift. Massive, yeah. It's a $450, $650 million project. But my question back to you would be, if we don't go after this and run it to ground, we're not going to know. What if it does come to fruition? If this comes to fruition, I don't want to say North Unit's water problems are over, but I mean, this will, for all intents and purposes, if we have drought conditions and we're only, taking, 100,000 acre feet out of Wickiup, this has the potential to make up that difference. And if you think about it, the water, so we lose 50 to 60% of our water right now in transportation losses. And if we're pulling the water directly out and putting it in just a couple miles above Haystack, we're taking out all of that loss, and there's no loss in the pipe. And we can flip that the switch and turn as many pumps on as we need or not. So my question, or my statement back is, why not? Why not run it to ground? I know it's an absurd idea, but why not run it to ground?
Well, but look, even Mike Britton admits to Macy's grandkids that they're not gonna see it in their lifetime. That's absurd. That is just absurd. And to saddle those kiddos with that kind of patron responsibility, I'm just calling myself a skeptic.
Yeah, but you're making a lot of conclusions, though, that you're going to saddle people with that. How do you know that we don't? How do you know that we don't get project power to offset the cost? Or how do you know that we're not going to get the project funded unless we try? And here's why I'm optimistic. I'm working with an organization called the Freshwater Trusts. They're a nationwide organization, do a lot of water projects. They have a lot of influence on the hundreds of millions of dollars that goes up and down the Columbia River for mitigation. And before I met with the Freshwater Trust, I always looked at this project through a straw. What they explained to me when we sat down, and the reason why they were so excited about the project is, you've got all the dams on the Columbia River, the Army Corps of Engineers, the Bonneville Power Administration that are doing their thing. They're getting beat up by environmentalists constantly down there, and they have to spend a lot of money in the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars for mitigation credits. If we were to build a pumping facility on the confluence of Lake Billy Chinook, as you know, there's a lot of issues with nutrients coming down the Crooked River that get trapped in Lake Billy Chinook. If we have a pumping facility that is pumping that warmer, nutrient-laden water, then those mitigation credits that Bonneville Power and the Army Corps of Engineers are paying, they could pay our power bill for us, and then they can get the mitigation credits. So that's how it was explained to me when I met with them. And then so for me, that makes my vision go from looking at a straw to be like, okay, this could potentially happen. Is it a long shot? Absolutely yes. Will the Macy's grandkids see it or not see it? To be honest, I don't know. At the rate that the federal government moves, I'd like to say that we can build it quicker than that, but I don't know. So that's the best I got.
Well, yeah, but you want to remember, what was it, 1930 or so, you started in the irrigation district? And it, probably back then, it looked like my grandkids will never see it. And it did take, what, 20 years to do it?
Yeah.
So-
Jesse? Sorry.
Yeah, well, this electric bill you say is gonna be about $6 million in today's dollars, I assume. But how much are we spending now just to pump it out of Crooked River and stuff?
Right now, I've got a $300,000 power bill.
So you have a big bill to pick up.
So if this project, we were lucky enough for this to all happen, then would the canal, would we not be using the canal system at all?
No, we still would.
We still would.
Because, yeah, this pumping facility would not service the patrons on the, what I call the upper end of the district.
Oh,
Or that would
sure.
be on the farther
That
south.
was- yeah.
So we have to still divert water. And then that's another reason why the hydro facility, we're only designing it for 500 CFS, is because, because of HCP and if this other pumping facility and stuff like that, we wouldn't be diverting as much water in the main canal. Jesse?
We balance it with what's stored in Wikia.
Yeah.
It'd be a balance. We balance. it.
What was that?
It would be a balance from what we have in, whatever we end up with in Wikia and balance the two sources of water.
I see, okay.
Since this is a long-term project, how will this help with the immediate benchmark of the HCP?
How would it help with the immediate benchmark for the HCP? Well, for the immediate benchmark, I mean, I don't see us, building it in 5 years. And so for the immediate, it wouldn't necessarily help us. Unless, I believe in miracles, but if we're to get built, in 5 years, then yeah, we can flip a switch and, we can offset the water that we have to release in the winter for HCP and help keep the lights on here with a full allotment. Yes?
Do you have any idea how long it took the farmers up along the Columbia River on the Oregon side to get the right to pump irrigation water out of the Columbia River?
I don't know that, ma'am, I'm sorry.
It was a long process.
I'm sure it was, yeah. Okay, what time is it here? 7:30, gotta keep this show rolling. So before I get going on to HCP and another conservation work, I do want to let everybody know that, so we've got 3 pipe welders that we purchased this last year using OEB grant funds. And we can, with these 3 machines here, we can weld HDPE pipe from 2 inches to 20 inches. And the reason why I wanted to highlight this is, as you know, as district patrons, you can have access to district equipment. And these welding machines here can be a game changer as far as installing HDPE pipe throughout your farms. I know, the standard right now is doing PVC, bell and spigot PVC, HDPE. It's a solid wall pipe and it's fusion welded, so it's basically one piece of pipe. And the great thing about it is there's a lot of vendors in the area, and there's also a new pipe manufacturing facility called CRAW over in Prineville. And so you can buy that pipe if you have a project or NRCS project on your ranch, and you guys want to put in some pipe. You can buy the pipe. You can hire the district to come out with an operator and weld the pipe up for you. And we can even, if we have time, dig it and help you put it in too. So I just wanted to let you guys know that we do have that available. So if you have any projects or anything like that, give Gary or Dennis a call, and all of our free time, I'm sure we'll be able to help you out. And we've got other equipment too. We've got excavators and dozers and dump trucks and scrapers and graders and you name it. So might not be the newest, but we've got it.
How long does it take to do a weld, like an average size, like say a 12-inch pipe,
That's a Dennis question. How long does it take to make a weld?
12-inch pipe?
or 8-inch, whatever?
Your 8-inch to 12-inch, you're probably looking less than 10 minutes per weld. You get into the bigger, thicker, and then the time goes up. Like when we did 5811, some of that pipe out there took upwards of half an hour per weld.
And when they make the pipe, they extrude it, and you can have them cut them in whatever lengths you can legally haul. So if you can haul 50-foot pieces, then so be it. You can get it in 50-foot lengths, so it's just that much less welding. It's not like you're having to weld 20-foot sticks out there. And you don't have to do, the great thing about HDPE, you don't have to do any thrust blocks. You don't have to worry about it, the seal, like a rolled gasket when you're putting the pipe together. It's not gonna leak on you. It's good stuff. That's all.
Josh, did you say at the board meeting that you and Gary could help, or you and Dennis could help patrons with some of their welding?
Yeah, yes. Yep. No, we would supply these machines with an operator. And so, you would come in, help us with the pipe, and we would weld it, there for you. In addition to this, with grant funding, the district this last summer got a telehandler and a mini excavator to also help with these conservation projects as well. So, like I said, we've got a lot of irons in the fire right now, so I can't guarantee that we're going to be sitting around and not have anything to do. But if you get on our schedule far enough in advance, then we'll do everything we can to help you. Okay? Okay. Habitat conservation plan. So I'm sure everybody knows about this. We signed the plan in 2020. It's a 30-year plan to reestablish flows in the upper Deschutes River. Its primary purpose is to, in the upper Deschutes River, protect the Oregon spotted frog and create additional flows for steelhead, trout, bullhead, sockeye salmon, and obviously the Oregon spotted frog. So for North Unit, we essentially underwrote this plan. We are responsible for the flows on the Deschutes River and making all of the flow targets throughout the year. So when the plan was implemented, there are very specific flow requirements that we have to meet periodically throughout the year. That means ramping up, maintaining certain flows during the summer, and then ramping down. I'm happy to say this year we did meet all of our HCP requirements, and we did, as we are working through, every year we're getting better, and we are able to use adaptive management when we can. Last year, well, I don't get too far ahead of myself. Let me talk a little bit about the bigger picture for the HCP and the whole entire Deschutes Basin. So 8 irrigation districts in Central Oregon, they are covered by the umbrella of what they call the DBBC. So the 8 irrigation districts and the city of Prineville signed the Habitat Conservation Plan. North Unit, we carry the burden of the plan because the federal government constructed Wickiup Reservoir, which thereby changed the course of the upper Deschutes River essentially forever, or until the dam is gone, which hopefully never happens. In order for North Unit to meet its HCP requirements, a lot of conservation work has to be done in our partnering neighboring districts. So COID, they have a senior water right to ours, and they have the most potential for water conservation. And last year, they finished up a phase 1 of one of their piping projects that freed up 29 CFS of water. That water comes to North Unit during the summer. We put that water on farm, and then in the wintertime, we release water to make or meet HCP requirements. So you can see over here on the far right, you can see projects that are going on right now as I speak. Arnold Irrigation District, they're working on a multi-phase conservation project that's going to free up about 40.5 CFS. COID, their project is about another 127 CFS to pipe their Pilot Butte Canal. Lone Pine, they've got about 8.8 CFS. We're working on multiple conservation projects. OID, that's Ochico, 17.2 CFS. Swally, another 6.1, and then TID is Tumalo, another 1.4. So all of these conservation projects are currently going on right now. Arnold is currently piping. Lone Pine, they were piping last year. Pretty sure they're going to be doing another phase of piping. And this all came about because the irrigation districts and the environmental community and the state agencies, we've all worked together as one to keep us all going. We have a good relationship with all of them. And so last year, COID, they spilled about 6,400 acre feet of conserved water on us. I don't have the exact number today, but it's between 65 and 7,000 acre feet. And I just received word from Fish and Wildlife that they want to do the same thing they did last year, where we save that water in the reservoir and then they release it next irrigation season. And so I'm sure someone's going to ask me the question, were we able to pick up any of the conserved water this year? The answer to that question is yes and no. Some of it we were able to pick up and some of it we were not, just because of the circumstances surrounding. You know, when I say circumstances, I mean, you know, without fail, whenever we were releasing, or whenever Fish and Wildlife wanted to release stored water, we got a bunch of rain here in the district and people were turning off. And when they say release the water, we have to release the water. And if we're in a position to be able to take it, we absolutely will. But I think 2 out of 3 times this year, we were not in a position to be able to take as much of that conserved water as we wanted to. It's unfortunate, but that's just the nature of the game right now.
What's the timeline of when these projects will all will be in place? Is this a 5-year plan or?
Yeah, so right now, the plan is where everyone's pushing very hard to free up about 200 CFS in 5 years.
In 5 years?
Yep.
That total is 232.6 on the board there.
Mm-hmm.
5 years.
Yep, that's the plan. Because as you know, in 5 years, our winter releases go from 105 CFS to up to about 300. And so we need another 200 CFS in 5 years to be able to keep the lights on.
When's the date of the 3rd release? What year?
It's 2028. So October of 2028, when we ramp down, we'll be ramping down to, well, we'll be potentially ramping down to 300. There are some provisions in the HCP that if, you know, litigation or funding or different things like that come up, that we could potentially extend that deadline a little bit.
The 127 from COIE, when are they projected to hit that?
Within 5 years. That's the goal. Yeah, so in 5 years, the goal is to have 200 CFS of conserved water to be able to offset. You know, and then that starts the clock again, because as you know, in 10 years, we got to go up to, you know, 500 to 600 CFS.
Do you know what that puts them at as far as their allotment? Like how many acre feet will be delivered to COID patrons?
I don't know that, I'm sorry. Paul?
It doesn't change the quarter.
So,
This is all water that's conserved area.
so for those who don't know, Paul Kasperger, he's a board member for COID. So to answer your question, it doesn't change, you know, their allotment won't change, even though we'll be freeing up roughly 200 CFS. You know, we'll be getting that during the summer and they'll still be getting the same allotment.
That's insane.
What's that?
That's insane. It's because water is conserved in tanking. Yeah, that's saving the building.
Questions? Good? So that is the
Josh,
end of my presentation. Yeah, Paul?
let me add that, what I understand, so the 49,000 you guys had delivered on farm this year, we, about 90,000 of that was CY conserved water.
That's, yeah, so the conserved water that CYD, they spilled about 6,500 to 7,000 acre feet of water.
This morning it was 9,000.
What's that, Paul?
This morning it was 9,000.
Oh, is that the final number? Okay, I haven't seen it yet, so. Any other questions for me?
Yeah, I do. The PL 55.
PL 566, yep.
Yep, yeah, exactly. And then 8 million matching funds.
Uh-huh.
How, is that a year-to-year thing that we have to re-enroll and reapply to? Or is that something that's guaranteed to, you know, get that funding?
Yeah, so we're talking about the question was the 8.5 million match funding that we've got. So when we apply for the grants, they have a deadline on when the money needs to be spent. And so right now, like I said, I've got about, I've got 1.2 of OEB that needs to be spent by June of 24. So I'll be spending that 1.2 this year on pipe. And then the other funding will probably have an expiration date of like 26, somewhere in there. And then the loan, that one doesn't have an expiration date. And so usually they give you a couple years to spend that money. So that won't be a problem though.
And the 1.3 billion feasibility study for piping the entire project, is that everything, including on district or from like Haystack all the way up to Wikia?
You won't get any pressure, though.
So the question is, when the district did the system improvement plan, and it was estimated to be 1.3 billion to pipe the entire north unit, was that the entire district? I think it was just, I mean, Marty, you might know this. I mean, I don't know if it's just from Haystack down or, I don't think it includes the main canal
It doesn't include the main canal.
going all the way up. It would just be pretty much from Haystack down and some of the laterals. I look at it, that plan a lot, but I haven't read it from cover to cover.
When you had this problem with the Forest Service ordering the water when you didn't have a use for it, is that something that could be tweaked at Haystack Reservoir or something?
So the question was the conserved water that U.S. Fish and Wildlife releases. They release that water when it's most beneficial for the frog. So case in point, earlier this spring, we have certain flow targets that we need to hit. And we need to, so we are up at about 800 acre feet this spring, and then we got some moisture on farm and demand started going down. So we started ramping or cutting back. And when we communicate with Fish and Wildlife whenever we're making these changes, and they said, we would like to keep the flow higher because it's going to benefit the frog now that they're getting out and doing their thing. We would like to keep the flow higher, so can we use that conserved water to keep that flow artificially high? And so that bucket of water is theirs to use whenever they deem it's necessary for the benefit of the biology. If we can pick it up, we will, but in that particular instance, we were cutting back because y'all were cutting back, and so we weren't able to pick up as much of that as we would have liked.
So I guess my question was, could we hold Haystack down a bit or something
We stuffed it.
in the?
We do that when we can.
Anticipation of this happening?
Yeah, we do that when we can, but remember it takes 3 days
Right.
to get water from Wikia into Haystack. This last go around, if you look back about 2 weeks ago, Haystack was, plumb full. I think it's right at the maximum amount that we could stuff in there. And then we've been drawing it back down here towards the end of the season. As you know, we're shutting Haystack off tomorrow. However, we're going to reduce flows in Bend, but we're going to keep water flowing in the upper main canal because we want to get Haystack back up to a level, that where we want to winter it in. So which is between 42 and 4,500 acre feet of water. So the anglers got some good fish in the water, and we got some water on hand for irrigating next year. Now, this year from last year, big difference. Last year we had to drain Haystack, so ramping up was way different this year because we had to bring water early to get water into Haystack, and that caused some logistical issues and whatnot. So we're not going to have those issues, in years to come because we didn't have to drain the reservoir.
How do we have the right to deliver water early to fill Haystack this year?
So the question was, how do we have the right to divert water early? So our water right in Haystack is that we can divert up to 5,650 acre feet of water in the year for storage. And that's just outside of the normal irrigation season. And so what we did is, as you know, we drained it all the way down. And then in February, when conditions were right, we worked with COID and their stock run. And they did a stock run, they shut off, and then we took that water. We had to leave 250 CFS in the river. So anything above that 250, if senior districts aren't doing stock runs, we're able to divert up to 5,650 acre feet.
Why don't we do that every year?
Why don't we do that every
We
year?
didn't want to drain it all the way across Silver, the lower canal, but leave 300 or 400 or 500 acre feet in haystack. But you ought to do that every year. That free week of water at the end of the year last year was really beneficial to soil moisture in a bunch of farms. I don't know why we can't do that every year.
It is a tool in the toolbox. We expended quite a bit of political capital to use that tool last year. It caused quite a bit of rancor in neighboring districts and with the tribes and stuff like that. It's because something we'd never done before. It is a tool that we can use, and we can potentially use that in the future if we need to. This year, with everyone, the way things played out, there's enough live flow to be able to fill a haystack back up with live flow and not use storage. And so that's our preferred option, is to use the natural flow or live flow to top off haystack instead.
And there's senior water right holders that have stock runs that we don't have. That we can't.
So what things are we doing, what's Bridget Moran doing for adaptive management for us right now? What's different than what the plan originally called for and that we're using because of the drought and the frost?
Earlier in the season, when we were ramping up, that was the main adaptive management that we used. So we have an option of going up to 400 CFS by a certain date versus 600, and so we were able to hold flows a little bit lower. And so that was one of the adaptive management techniques that we used earlier in the season. And then
You're talking about the requirement of minimum balls, or instead of 400, instead of 600, we were
correct. Yeah. So we started out. We got to go on paper. It says we have to go up to 600 by a certain date, and but we were able to use adaptive management and only go to 400. And part of that is because haystack was already full. We didn't need the water on farm.
And it's wet.
And it was wet. Yeah, it was very wet. A lot of rain this spring.
So when's Bridget Moran going to come talk to us about how the frogs doing?
Well, we can invite her to the farm fair in February and see if she wants to give us an update.
They never have given us a frog inventory yet, have they?
No.
The
The answer is no.
Okay, I have a couple questions. I remember hearing that the Center for Biological Diversity was gonna go ahead and file suit. Did they do that?
They have not filed suit to date, to my knowledge. I know that Fish and Wildlife has gone back and forth with them, but to my knowledge, no. Even though they did file a notice that they were going to file, at this point, to my knowledge, the answer is no, they have not filed.
Rep Helm and Rep Owens, I know they were working on potential legislation that would make intra-district transfers potentially more of an option in the future, or at least remove some of those barriers. Is that still something they're working on?
So we did work on that legislation this year. I went to the Salem and testified on that. It didn't make it across the finish line, but we are, and I'm getting a little bit into Mike's lane, because Mike tends to handle most of the political stuff. But it's my understanding that he is in contact with OWRC about maybe bringing that back into the short session next year. But don't take that to the bank, because that's Mike's lane and not mine.
It'd be great to activate the district if it goes into the short session, just to get everybody here on board with how to help lobby for that.
I think it would be a good question for the farm fair, for Mike.
And I have one more kind of hard question. If allotments stay the same as they are right now, don't get better and don't get worse, our farm is not the same model as many farms here. So I'm trying to understand, can the carrot seed growers and the grass seed growers continue for the next 20, 30 years if things stay status quo, same as it is right now?
The answer is no.
So I assumed that was the answer. So I I understand there's a hope and a dream about the piping project solving our issues. How is the district thinking about the 30-year plan if allotments stay the same? I mean, are people looking at developing new markets? Are we looking at new crops for the district? How are we going to keep people farming? We can talk about all the projects, but what will we grow?
So that's not really in my wheelhouse. I don't control what crops and rotations and techniques that the farmers use. You know, my focus on trying to do as much conservation work and helping our partner districts do as much conservation work as they can, and funding. You know, that's a big part of the piece of this puzzle here is, you know, we need hundreds of millions of dollars into the Deschutes Basin to be able to keep these projects going. We brought in 125, you know, we got to keep that coming. And so I don't really have a good answer for you because it's just not my wheelhouse.
And I just want to counter that. Thank you for taking my question, which is that, right, the district doesn't exist without patrons. And if there's not markets and water for those markets and those crops, there's no patrons for your district. So it actually is a part of your job. So I don't mean that in a super challenging way, but I have to say that.
I'm abundantly aware of the challenges, I promise you that. And I've seen the struggles and challenges, and I don't have any good answers, sorry. Richard.
So we talk about flows out of Wikia all the time. We're gonna be at 400, we're gonna be at 600. We talk about all the water we're gonna conserve, but we never talk about 10 years from now, what's our allotment gonna be? When are we gonna see that allotment going up? Or is this just we're gonna just stay where we're at? I mean, we've gotta have some numbers, you gotta have some hope somewhere that we can move on, because otherwise we better sell out now, because the last guy standing is losing. I mean, that's the numbers I'm never hearing from you guys.
Well, it's because I can't predict the future.
And I realize that drought has a lot to do with this, but I never hear from you guys, okay, we gotta give them this much money or this much water. We've conserved all this water, but at what point are our allotments gonna go up?
So the best answer I have for you, Richard, is we have a chart in our boardroom where you can see the ebb and flow of what Wikia Reservoir has done over the past 60 years. And it's about a 7-year cycle where you've got, you know, about 7-8 years of good, and you got, you know, 2 or 3 years of, you know, downturn, and then it kind of comes back up, and it just kind of does that. And as you know, because you're abundantly aware that this is 4 years of extreme drought. And, you know, I always try to be the eternal optimist and say this is the year that, you know, we're going to get hammered. You know, last year California got the atmospheric river. The year before it, Washington got the atmospheric river. I'm hoping that we get, you know, the atmospheric river this year, and that we get, you know, Wiki up full, and that we can get that allotment up to, you know, 1.5 feet. But I can't say that. I know last year I made the very foolish mistake of predicting what I thought Wiki Up was going to do, and I got my handed to me. So I'm not going to do that again, and I'm just going to hope and pray for the best. That's all I can do. And prepare, you know, doing conservation work and trying to get these hydro projects done so we can offset the allotment and those kind of things.
I just don't see us ever getting back to 2 foot on this pumping station. And I made a statement 6-7 years ago to you guys that if my water bill is not double what it is right now, 5 years from now, you guys haven't done your job. If we haven't spent enough money piping that kind of project. Water's not cheap. And you're gonna have to pay for it. And everybody in this room is gonna have to pay for it.
Well, I want to say thank you guys for coming out tonight. I would appreciate if you would, if you guys see an NUID employee, say, you know, thank you, or an NUID board member, you know, thank them for the work that they do. It's a very thankless job, and I just, from the bottom of my heart, I'm telling you, we're doing the best we can, and I think we had a lot better year this year than we did last few years, and hoping and praying for better even next year. So, thanks for coming out.